Are you ready for the reaction of Lucy Munson?
Oh, nice one. Yeah, we're going to watch some Lucy Munson outreach. Yeah, sounds
Yes.
great. Let's do it.
So this is called Wow, Social Experiment Gets to Her. And Lucy Munson is really good at leading people into the vegan idea, the vegan argumentation, by before asking some leading questions about other social justice issues, just so that it's very clear that, oh, this is why vegans have the problem they do. What do you've seen some of Lucy's stuff, haven't you?
Yeah, it's actually really fascinating. I really enjoy the process of it and the tactic, because it always has the other individual sound like a vegan first, because they always sound like a vegan when you ask them about these questions. Like, basically nobody ever everybody thinks that it's all abhorrent, but their language, like the way that we speak about non-human animals, that's what's important. It's like the way that they speak about the issues, because they know that Lucy means human beings. And then when she lets them become aware that she's explained the principles of veganism, they'll immediately go completely back on all of the statements that they've just made, just because we're no longer talking about humans. That's what's so fascinating about it. So
Absolutely.
yeah, let's see
Right.
how it goes.
Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go.
Wow, I've never thought about it like that. Yeah, I don't even know how to answer that.
Sure, can I answer some questions? Part of the social experiment is like I'm asking questions that seem obvious, but I'm going somewhere with it.
Okay.
So try to bear with me.
Yeah.
So the reason why I put you through all these questions and answers, and of course we agree on all of them because they're very straightforward, right?
Yeah.
But what do you think about forced child labor?
Oh, against it.
What do you think about slavery?
When you look at like even census records from like the late 1800s and all that, it's just like you're seeing a person listed by age and an X, the same thing as cattle. And
Interesting how Lucy is zoomed in there, like treated like cattle. It's I find it like, you know, when people like, oh, they treated me like an animal, they treated me like cattle. It's like they're accepting that animals are treated horrifically. Because when you're treated like an animal, you are treated like with complete disregard, complete disrespect, like you don't mean anything. That is what you're treated like if you're to be treated like an animal. Yeah, people will say it, and then as soon as you talk about the treatment of said animals, suddenly it's, oh well, it's not so bad. They're given
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, oh, I was treated like an animal, it was so horrible. And then that'll be the same person that'll be like, animals are treated amazing.
Yeah, like it's my favorite thing.
Clearly not.
What is it about a person that makes it wrong to enslave them?
I mean, it's an abuse.
If a slave owner was to justify owning a slave because they think that the slave was put here for them, what do you think about that?
Wow. I think that person needs to walk in a slave's shoes for one day. It's horrific. It should have never have been part of this country.
Is because each answer explains why vegans are vegan. So not being treated as a commodity, like the suffering aspect not really mattering too much when you're using someone's body against their will. In times of chattel slavery, there were welfarists and abolitionists. The welfarists thought that we didn't necessarily need to abolish slavery if we treated the slaves pleasantly and they didn't suffer too much. What do you think about that?
Well, suffer too much, I mean, that's a relative term. But yet again, it's just, you just get rid of slavery, period.
Yeah. See, that's what's interesting when we look at the articles that we've been reading, you know, that it has been very welfarist focused. You know, and yeah, in any other context, you'd look at the welfarism and be like, that's absolutely ridiculous. And like, though it may be meaningful of value to focus on just how cruel something is, in the first place, it's like, should this even be happening is a big question. And if you saw that in any other context, you'd be like, oh, we should be focusing on just getting rid of that completely. But when it comes to the animal context, that's not considered at all.
Yeah, it's fascinating because we live in like a post. We're living, well, relatively in a post like slavery generation, so you get that like the response like always cracks me up. That's why I keep laughing, because she's like, there used to be like welfareists for slavery, and they're like, oh, so ridiculous. Like the response that you get from people, it's so funny. I only hope that like there's a future where we're talking to someone and they're like, did you know that like back in the day there used to be people that like cared about the welfare of animals that we just forced to be enslaved their whole lives, and we'd take all their babies from them and kill them. Like people used to be like, oh, let's just try and do that the nicest way. Like I just hope that we live in a world one day where people react like, oh my god, like that's so silly. That's such a silly thing.
Didn't you know we had a time where people wanted more space in the cages for the birds before they were sent off to be slaughtered? And they would celebrate that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Freedom and slavery, they don't go together. They can't be in the same statement.
A lot of people think it's a diet, but really it's the stance against animal use and exploitation, and ultimately slavery. What would prevent you from opposing animal use, exploitation, and slavery by going vegan?
That's actually a very good question. Wow, I've never thought about it like that. No, it's very thoughtful.
This is what it shows the power of like talking to people about this, because people haven't had to think about this. Like, can you think of a time where in like something like school or in family where they were like, right, time to talk about animal rights?
No.
When are you forced to actually like, despite all the kind of memes that vegans force their views and everything like that, like where is the mandation of like talking about animal rights? There's never a conversation about that I had to endure. It was all external.
Sorry, Elle.
That's all right.
I imagine Joaquin Phoenix did, like when he was 4 or something, but
Joaquin Phoenix, and then he did so at the Oscars, a mandatory talk about the dairy industry. So he was like, I had to do this at 4 years old, so now you must hear it.
It was like I walked past this thing recently, and it was like the Milk Hut or something, and everywhere it's like on the way in there's like a cow's butt, and then on the way out it's like the cow's face, and there's like big sort of like cow mascot things everywhere, and just all these obviously all these cow decorations and art and everything, and they're all just so happy to be providing you with like whippy ice cream, aren't they?
Oh yeah, so happy.
So there's not only are we not like, there is no right, everyone, let's talk about animal rights, like you said, but there's also like the real animals are hidden, and there's cartoon ones with like smiley faces on the wall and stuff, and in the Milk Hut where you get ice cream. So
oh yeah, literally, like one that springs to mind is the laughing cow. Like I remember that very early, thinking, oh, happy cow, a really happy cow. But all this kind of in fact animal rights is pushed away from you because you're told that the animals are so fine and so happy, and they're making a sacrifice and everything's peachy, when it's quite the opposite.
Thought-provoking. I don't even know how to answer that. I mean, it is. It's against going there. Well, there are some things or some animals I won't eat. And it's just because I know how, like lamb, I won't touch it. And I won't even go to a restaurant. It's odd. There's just something about...
It might be worth mentioning that a lot of people avoid eating lambs because they're babies. When it's worth noting that like all of the animals being killed are like babies or teenagers. They're very young individuals that will never get to see their natural lifespan. So seeing a lamb and being like, I'm not going to eat them because they're a baby. Well, the chickens who you decide to eat, they're going to be like 6 weeks old. they are still chicks. So
Yeah.
I don't think this is where she's going down. Oh, they're cute fluffy babies, but I've heard it before in my own outreach, and I've seen elsewhere that people avoid certain animals because they're babies, when not that should matter anyway. Like, oh, this one's a baby, so I'm not going to eat the baby, but I am going to eat the adult.
Yeah, but they don't realize that them eating an adult animal would be such a rarity. It would be such a rarity, and it would probably be like some sort of like highly processed item, so that you couldn't tell. It's just like processed mush. But it's like, I was going to say, it's like one of the two. Either it's like she knows that the lambs are babies and doesn't realize that the chickens are babies, or it's just that, like, when lambs are babies, they're cute, and that's what matters.
Yeah, and then if they don't have their tails cut off, then they actually wag them, stuff like that. Yeah.
The thought of an animal being raised in a cage and basically tortured, and the way that they have them, I can't do it. Yeah, and I can't.
So that's interesting. She's made the connection with lambs, saying, oh, they're being forced into a cage, that being affected in this way, I can't do it. So she's made that connection with the lambs, but she hasn't made it with the other animals. And my suspicion is, again, the fact that they're babies.
Yeah, lambs are very rarely in cages, though. Like sheep and sheeps are like one of the animals that are like predominantly still, as far as I'm aware, like farmed outside. Like, we base our perception on how good farming is off of lambs and cows. The ones that are in the cages are the chickens and the pigs and stuff, man.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Weird.
Go to a restaurant that supports that. But you're right. I'll go. Yeah, exactly. I will, like a cow, chicken, eggs I eat, cheese I eat, dairy I consume.
And also, keeping in mind that it's not only about the diet aspect. That is a very much like one of the biggest aspects of animal exploitation in the world is through the food system and even hunting, all these things. But also, like, veganism is about not exploiting animals and using their bodies in any shape or form. Not going to zoos, not wearing their bodies or their skin.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah. But no, it's very thought provoking of thinking about, like, going through the whole conversation of slavery and then now shifting. It's just like, okay, let's talk about animals. Yeah. Which I have a dog, and I couldn't even imagine, because in some countries, like, he would have been dinner and stuff, and I cannot, like, I couldn't. Yeah. Was it China that just that dogs
like
are no longer? Yeah, somewhere. Yeah, that they just recently, like, that's no longer going to be allowed.
Which is weird, because they didn't outlaw other types of animal exploitation in slavery.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, they won't outlaw other types of animal exploitation, and people from different countries will look at other countries with scorn and act like they're so much better because they're not killing a specific animal. And it's just like, hang on, you're killing lambs, you're killing cows, you're killing, chickens. What's the morally relevant difference? Like, how is it so much better?
Yeah, just because like the West think it's horrible and evil to do that to dogs, because we don't do that. So
yeah, but we'll cut off their tails, we'll cut off their ears, we'll do all these other things. We'll send them to be like breeders. We'll do all these other exploitative things to dogs. Or we'll breed types of dogs who can't even breathe properly. And we'll act like we are so great to dogs. It's just perplexing.
Such a good point.
Yeah.
But I mean, us, and as a Western society, I mean, we look at, like, dogs are our companions. We would never consider them food, but we do look at other animals as consumption. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Do you know what interests me, Elle?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what really interests me, Elle? When people do that, and it's usually speciesism is something that someone that hasn't dabbled in veganism deeply can wrap their head around. It's always interesting to me when someone tries to. I'm not sure that it's like. I'm not sure that it's them really being overly accepting or shown that they're actually willing to change. It's like this get out thing that some people do. They're like, oh yeah, isn't it so weird that we think this about dogs and that about pigs? Yeah, and then just fold their arms, and it's like, and then that's it. And it's like, yeah, but now now the accountability is going to come. It's like they think the accountability isn't coming, or it's just this weird like tactic, I think, of like they pander to you a wee bit, and then they're like, oh, that's kind of an interesting, thought-provoking thing, and I'm just going to leave and not actually think about it or do anything about it.
Yeah, that's why you have to be careful when you have conversations with people and they seem to be going really well. A lot of the time, it's just a complacent thing where they're lip servicing you. Like
lip service, that's what that felt like. Yeah, and then the arm fold, it's like, right.
Yeah, so it's one way or the other, isn't it? It's either like, that is actually really weird, I don't know how I haven't thought of that before, or it is, I'm really not comfortable with this conversation, I don't want to be like called out, so I'm protecting myself, sort of thing. I don't think the way it is.
I feel like right now is prime time for like laying on some accountability, like
which I imagine Lucie. Yeah, I imagine Lucie will do. 100%.
Lucy's shift a little bit. Maybe I usually have tofu in my house. Maybe I just start buying more tofu and less ground beef. Not less.
Like none. Lucy's gonna do it.
Yeah.
If you were in the animal's position, like an animal, for example, in the slaughterhouse, or an animal being enslaved, how urgently would you want humans to stop doing this to you?
There we go.
Very good.
Very good. The answer is quite clear. I don't know how long she'll take to answer, but it's like immediately. You wouldn't
Interesting.
Let's see. Let's see. Ready? That was a long time.
I knew that was going to happen. I've not watched this, by the way. I literally knew that was going to be with the folded arms.
Oh, classic. Okay.
Fascinating.
It's such a hard thing to think about because it's also the conditioning.
No, like she was asked, what was she asked? Like, if you were in their position, would you want someone how quickly would you want someone to stop? Like, that was the kind of question, right? It's not a hard question. If you were in the position of your dog who you spoke about, would you want someone to like stop exploiting and like being on the way to kill you? The answer would be like, yes, you don't have to. I don't know what's so hard about it.
The question wasn't like, are you going to do something about it? That wasn't the question yet. The question was, how quickly would you want it to stop if it was you? So, oh my God, straight away, please.
Exactly. It's like she's already thinking maybe about the consequences of what she will say. So it's like, oh yeah, if I say immediately, then I am held to this standard where I have to stop immediately.
See, this is what I was talking about earlier. So like a few minutes ago when she explained and described like speciesism and then just went, yeah, like that. I was just like, it's so that someone might take that as like, oh, I've outreached this person effectively. They agree, like they're going to do something. Like, I can't believe this worked. But like, I just feel like I've only had a little bit of experience with it, but I feel like you can see that that's not quite what's going on when they do that, you know?
No, it's really tough to call what's going on because I feel like sometimes the ones that are very emotional and they're having a bit of a go at you, I feel like they actually maybe are more primed to have a change because they're just and feel bad about the fact that they even did that and kind of reflect. But when you have someone like this who's really going along with it and like, yeah, you're right, it's so hard to tell. It really is. Yeah.
And not that I was conditioned with slavery, because I was born after and stuff, or at least within the United States, because I know slavery exists still in other countries. But I don't know. It's a conditioning that's very hard to backtrack and backpedal. I think really probably the best thing to step forward.
So that's the thing. It's like talking about how, you know, we've been conditioned and it's hard. That can go one of two ways. It's like accepting, oh, I've been conditioned and this is wrong, so I need to like come out of it. Or it can be, I've been conditioned, so this is how I'm going to be.
As far as that's the kind of attitude I'm getting from her right now, it's as if she's like, it's just going to be too hard for me to change.
Well, we'll see.
I think really probably the best thing to step forward is taking a little bit lesser than typical, or at least be mindful of like when you order or when you buy. And even for us, as we've gotten older, we've eaten less and less and less of it. But it's really, I mean, selfishly, it's about how it is to our bodies and stuff versus looking at it as how it has impacted cattle, chickens, so for the animal. Yeah.
We say, they're treating me like an animal. And
Lucie's saying it as well. They're treating, like with same wavelength there, Lucy. Yeah, you treat you like an animal, and then suddenly that's like a horrific thing, and yeah, we can accept that. And a thing that she said that kind of like affects me is when people talk about, oh, at least being mindful of what you're doing. Yeah. It's like, if you're mindful of what you're doing and it's like negatively affecting someone, that's just worse. Like, fair enough if you've done something, you're like, oh, I didn't actually realize that was like messed up to do. Like, I you know, that's like, oh, okay, you know, okay. But I'm really thinking about how bad this might have been, and I'm really taking it all in. It's like,
oh, like at least I know. Oh, poor cow. Sorry, poor cow.
Sorry. Yeah,
it's
I'm
like,
so sorry.
Yeah.
Now we don't even think about like, well, what does that mean? Like, because I understand this because it's kind of like maybe overwhelming at first. What about the animals that will still be enslaved and killed, like for example slaughtered for like the products that you do buy that are, you know, animal products? What about these individuals in the process of that?
Wow. No, it's not fair at all. Because there's not an animal that's born, anything with a heartbeat that's born into this world. It's just like, yes, I want to sacrifice myself for consumption, whether or not it's a human, it's a dog, it's a cow, it's a chicken. So like I said, this is a very thought-provoking conversation. Yeah, I've never looked at veganism or being a vegetarian, and I've never looked at it from that side or this type of conversation. So yeah, thank you for that.
Obviously, slavery is horrible for humans.
I really cannot tell what route she'll take. It does sound like she's genuinely engaging, but I don't know if it's like it's more of a thought-provoking exercise rather than I'm gonna like implement this into my lifestyle.
Yeah, it sounds like she's wanting to end the conversation with, look, like you've let me think about something I didn't think about before. But that's like as far as we're getting right now. And to be fair, like that is like probably as far as you're going to get with most people. Like if she's actually been genuine, she probably is, because if she had thought about the conversation so much before, she'd have had like vastly different responses. Sounds like she's just trying to go like, this is as far as you're getting with me today.
Yeah.
But we are a type of animal, right? Humans are animals. They're also going through all these things that we've talked about for human slavery, and even worse in some sense, because there's trillions of animals every year that are being exploited. Because of the quantity of victims, it's horrific. Until the day that you go vegan, they will be exploited and enslaved for you. I appreciate, like, you taking the time for this.
Oh, yes.
I'm going to give you a card real quick.
Yeah. Good luck on your project.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My project is making you vegans.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. That goes back to that question of, like, who should you pay attention to the slave or the slave owner? It's like you have to educate both at the same time. So thank you very much.
Should we care more about the slave owner's desire to own a slave or about the slave being enslaved?
I don't think you can choose one or the other. Just you have to do. It goes back to education, and you have to educate both, because you could have one or the other, and it's still going to be an imbalance. You have to attack everything equally and stuff, and that means educating the slave owner and educating the slave. Yeah.
What?
I think she was trying to. Well, I don't think she like actually answered the question, because it was about the interests of like wait, let's go back to what.
I don't know if I'm like. Do you understand what she means when she says educate the slave? What does that? What?
Like educating them out of being. Oh no, sorry, the slave owner. Educating the slave. I don't know what that would mean. No.
What does that mean? Yeah.
And I don't know what it would mean she didn't know about beforehand what the animal question would be. But yeah, I don't understand what that means. Hang on, let's try again.
To own a slave, or about the slave being the slave?
So thank you.
Should we care more about the slave owner's desire to own a slave, or about the slave being enslaved?
I don't think you can choose one or the other.
So I don't think she meant educate them. I think she meant like pay attention to them. I think she misspoke.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, that was Lucie Munson, everybody. Please check out Lucie Munson. Her outreach is really incredible. As we've seen, it's the power of using other social justice movements and understanding where they were at, and to see what we would think about things right now, because we constantly look back at history and think, why did that happen? And that was because like people were the social conditioning, like other factors at play that affect you in the moment, that mean that you behave differently to how you would if you were external to that. So you could very well be in the moment doing something, partaking in an industry or a societal norm that could be having such a horrific impact. And what vegans are arguing is that is animal exploitation, animal killing, the animal agriculture industry, animal experimentation, all these things. We are arguing that is what's currently happening. That is something that we are socially conditioned to think is acceptable. But if we were external to that, we would look at and think was absolutely abhorrent. And we do actually think it's abhorrent while participating in it. So that really shed some light on just how horrible it actually is. Kenny, what are your thoughts with all of this?
My thoughts are this. I thought it was so interesting to hear. I don't think I was aware of it. It definitely feels like it was a first time thought. The fact that there was a slavery welfare movement of sorts. Not only are most people like unaware of that, like now that slavery's been abolished, we all, not only do we all just unanimously agree that was the right decision. Everybody thinks it was the right decision, or at least most people. Would be pretty fringe if you don't. But we're not even aware that there was a movement that was pushing for their welfare, or at least I certainly wasn't, and I have never heard someone talk about it. So it would be absolutely incredible to think that maybe one day when non-human animal exploitation and slavery is abolished, that the idea that a welfare approach even existed would be ludicrous. It's so interesting to me. Absolutely loved that part.